This is a picture of Ruth Dennison in fine form. I never met anyone who could laugh as fully as she did. In fact, I hear sometimes when I'm laughing unconsciously, I hear my laughter being hers. It's very interesting. Now, can I get to seeing the group, Paul? Is that up to you? Oh, well, you've changed it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Hi. Hello, friends on Zoom. Oh, there you are. How nice. Whoa, that's quite a background, Janice. Wild. Looks like a storm in the mountains. Well, hi. I've been a fair piece since I last saw you. I went on vacation in Mexico and went to the hell realms with sickness. Wonderful retreat, powerful. A fantastic experience of disappointment. And that's what today's about. For those of you that are thinking of leaving early, don't. Because today's Dharma talk is going to be the most potent one I've ever given. And it's about what the Buddha taught. He said, I teach one thing. Suffering, the cause of suffering and the end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of the suffering. And there is, in fact, a path. And we need it. And in a very unconventional fashion, even for me, I'm going to start with a song. Not that I'm playing or singing. How many of you know Carsey Blanton? Nobody. One person. Well, here's one of her songs. And I invite you to notice, sit. This doesn't mean this isn't meditation. This is time to notice hearing, and then sound, and then what meanings, how does the sound affect you? So.
So honey, put on that party dress. Oh, there's a party at the end of the world. Let's go to the party at the end of the world. We'll dance with a beautiful girl. It's our last chance. The party at the end of the world.
You are welcome here. How do we make each other welcome? But the Dalai Lama said that his religion is kindness. He wasn't just joking about it. That's actually his religion. That's what I aspire to. I aspire to be open and loving to every person that I meet. And I had a very fortunate experience with being quite sick, not hospital sick, but quite sick, almost the whole time I was in Mexico. And when I went out to walk in the streets, all I could feel was love. Every person there was one virus away from being really sick, or one artery blocked of being dead, or one phone call away from their life being in total uproar. And that's us, right? So whatever our ethnicity, gender, all of our various identifications, let's meet each other in love as best we can. And it's selfishness and greed and hatred go deep in us. I was there with my wife, Jennifer, and we were both sick. And you know how relationships can get hard when you're sick, when one person is sick? It brings out the challenging parts of us. And of course, all we have to do is go to the macro scale and look at what's happening in the world, and some bad parts of us are acting out. So that's why we come together to practice, to help ourselves become more loving. And the other thing that we like to acknowledge here at PIMC is this land we're walking on has been walked on by many people before us, people who were not nicely removed, who still live here, their descendants. What we can do about that, I don't know. A land acknowledgement is a small thing, but who knows? Maybe someday we'll come around to reparations. But my hunch is that we have other really big crises on our hands. So you are welcome. Are we on YouTube now? Good, thanks. All right. We, you, are alive. Not for long, but for right now. We can stay lost in our thinking. Most people do. We can think that basketball games and vacations and fancy houses and children are really important and are going to save us somehow. They're not. Because nothing can, except deep spiritual experience. Not spiritual belief, but deep, profound experience of our interconnection with everything. So let's dive in, let's dissolve, I just remembered a quote from one of the Castaneda books. Don Juan said to Carlos, the earth, she is so great. The only thing I can do is to swim around in her. So let's start right here with this sitting body, which is the earth come to life. You are the living earth. Your blood is the water of the earth. The air you breathe is shared by all other living creatures. Feel how alive this body is. Feel its tingling and vibrating. Feel how alive your hands are. They're nothing but life. And notice that each breath has its moment of beginning. It has its rising to fullness. It has its decline. It has its ending. Are you noticing that the mind is wandering? Something miraculous happens when awareness is such that it notices the mind wandering. That noticing is a moment of awakening. That's the path home. There's nothing to believe. There's no dogma you have to swallow. If we want to formulate what we're doing as a practice, we could say, why not aim toward being present with the breath a lot? Also aim to be kind and gentle. I guess kind, gentle, loving, and compassionate. When awareness awakens in the midst of a wandering mind, that's important. Acknowledge the reality of the wandering mind, and then with the delicacy of a butterfly coming to land on a flower, come back to breathing in. There is absolutely no violence or coercion in this practice. We can see in the outer world how utterly a failure violence is. It never works. The same is true inside. There is a certain effort to this, a certain work. It doesn't require the tensing of any muscles. As one becomes established in practice, it's useful to have a few more categories of observation. One central one is the 5 hindrances. When you can hardly find the breath, is craving, is desire present, is wanting present? Or is wanting not present, is not liking present? They say the mind is striking against the object. Is there a predominance of restlessness and agitation? That's not a mistake or a failure. It's just a quality of mind, restlessness and agitation. Worry, part of that. Is the mind lost in sleepy dullness? The colorful sloth and torpor? Or is the mind filled with doubt? Why am I doing this? Does it work? What's the point? And so we rest back into this moment, doing perhaps the most powerful thing we can do in our whole lifetime, waking up. One very important school of this meditation in Burma emphasizes a noting practice. With each in-breathing, you make a little mental note, rising, rising, as you attend to the chest and abdomen. With each out-breathing, falling, falling. When you discover the mind wandering, you note wandering, wandering, returning, returning. So in a way, we are disentangling ourselves from the dream state, from the trances of wandering mind. Not through some intellectual reasoning, but through actually waking up, through doing it. you might discover that the body becomes restless or an itch begins somewhere. When you can, just resist the urge to move. Just sit still. Give up. Observe how the itch can become pretty intense. Liking, disliking, mostly disliking. Or that ache in the neck can get pretty intense. This practice is the path of learning to bear the unbearable. Of abandoning the addiction to seeking pleasure always and avoiding pain always. Don't bother trying to stop the mind. That is a fool's errand. It will stop sometimes. Exquisite quiet can ensue. But you'll never beat it into submission. And if you do, it will last as long as any oppressive regime can last. Not so long, because it is its nature to wander. Instead, with utmost love, with utmost kindness, do that which you really, 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 really want to do. Come home to yourself. Be in this being right here. Mm. Rest back into the actual sensations of life here and now in this breath, in this body. If there's pain, simply avoid it or pay attention to your breath. But if the pain persists, if it knocks at the door, then put aside your breath and go to the pain. Experience those sensations. Bring love and compassion to that. Please now inhabit the contact of your body as it presses against the chair or the floor or the cushion. You don't need to make something up. It's alive. It's as real as any other experience you'll ever have. Maybe allow awareness to open in the hands and fingers. Notice the sensations of clothing all over your body. Notice the region of your heart. Occasionally, someone will overcome there's a blocking that the mind does to not feel the heart beating, but you may be able to. You can feel it in the chest or in the fingers or in the throat or the face. And we could engage the mind, the thinking mind, for a moment. What one thought would you most like to think? One of my favorites is, I love you, with your name at the end. Or to hold yourself and say, you're safe here. I'll pay attention to you. Please now allow awareness to open in the eyes and the face. The cheeks, the lips. Mhm. And now coming to the eyes, let them move around a bit inside their beautifully lubricated hideout. Very well defended, the eyes here in their orbits. And now make the intention to open the eyes. And then make the effort to lift the eyelids. And notice what happens. There is seeing and awareness of seeing. Wow. Seeing. Seeing. And with seeing, suddenly there's a world. And just as we can think a kind thought to ourselves, we can think a kind thought of the persons around us. It's like, I hope you're healthy. Or, I hope your children are safe. Or, I hope that depression is really subsided. Or, may your vacation be really nice and joyful. Think of some thought. And then to the degree that it's comfortable, I invite you to turn around, look around, see who's here, be aware of seeing. You don't have to, and if you happen to make eye contact with someone or even just see them, wish them well. It's quite a lovely experience to make eye contact and to know, to be pretty sure the person, quote, over there is wishing you well. It's one of the things I love about watching couples that are newly in love sitting across the table from each other. It's like they are wishing each other well. Thanks for being here, Zoomers. It's funny, some of you that I see on Zoom, I don't think I've ever met, but I have such a sense of familiarity with you. Well, I'm glad you're here. I can't think of a way I'd rather spend Sunday morning. I have a few announcements. One is Jim Dalton, April 6th, not far away. Qigong, mindful movement, and the beautiful big open heart of Jim Dalton. Quite an experience to have, to know him. Basics of mindfulness, Doug Pullen. 6 Thursdays beginning April 4th. If you've never done Doug's Basics of Mindfulness, you missed out. I don't know how many, he's probably done it 25 times, maybe not that many, but it always fills. And he goes through really the fundamentals of insight meditation practice, and there are some. And then my dear friend, Mary Stankavage is coming April 27th, developing a deep intimacy with our experience. She's a wonderfully earthy and fine human being and teacher. And I want to, this just finally came together yesterday. Oh, where'd it go? Betsy Toll and I. Betsy is the founder of Living Earth here in Portland. And I'm just going to read you our little advertising that hasn't come out yet, but it's called Courage and Compassion in a Troubled Time. Life has always been difficult, fragile, and unstable. It fits today's talk very well, actually. Added to that, we're now faced with looming changes in our lives that come through climate change, political collapse, war, and terrorism. With whom can we speak openly and share our fears and losses? These monstrous realities are mostly taboo in conversations with friends and loved ones. We need places, community, and rituals where we can open to the fear, uncertainty, pain, danger, and injury that seems overwhelming. We must band together to cultivate our capacity to live with truth, joy, and compassion, no matter what. Betsy Toll, founder of Living Earth, and Robert Beatty invite you to join them to gather in meditation and a deep, honest conversation about what's really happening in our lives and hearts. We'll share, move, dance, and meditate as we express our ultimate connectedness. Gathering community and sharing our common experience is an antidote to the helplessness and hopelessness and can provide doorways for revealing our natural resilience. It is astounding how long it takes to write such a blurb between two people. But I think it kind of got it. Oh, want to talk about the library? Come on up. Luke, our librarian, or one of our librarians.
Hi, I'm Luke. Jeff is in the back, also helps with the library. Just a general announcement that the library is back there. It's always open. Attached to the door, you will find just a couple of paper sheets. You can always check out books even when nobody's back there. You don't need any sort of librarian to physically check out a book for you. I really encourage you to check it out. There's a lot of really interesting books, Buddhist topics, psychology, lots of relevant information in there. We're going to be working on some improvements to the organization, to the library, hopefully in the coming months. But in the meantime, it's there. There's a very simple form to fill out if you'd like to check out a book. And pretty much that's all there is to it. You just bring the book back and drop it in the wicker basket by the door. And yeah, the library's, for you. And we also accept donations for books. And we kind of have a queue to get those in the collection, but always looking for relevant books as well. And it is a really nice collection, so encourage you to check it out.
Thanks, Luke. Oh.
There's also two affinity groups meeting this week. They meet on a regular cadence. Tonight at 6:30, the Be Queer Now, the LGBTQIA+ affinity group. And then tomorrow evening at 7:15, they meet on the second and fourth Sundays. That's the BIPOC mindfulness group as well. I don't have the details to read to you in front of me, but go to the website, follow the links for the affinity groups, and you'll find out how to connect online.
Great advice. Thank you, Paul, for being so wonderful about doing this broadcast. There's 40 some people who are here today because of your efforts. So it's a lot. And I want to say one more thing before Jim comes up and does some movement. PIMC is really important. The number of lives that have been transformed in this place over the last, well, I started cultivating the community of PIMC in 1979. And then over the years, I taught in 5 different places. Jim came in there somewhere in the middle. And literally thousands of people have come through here and transformed their lives. Thousands more have come in and walked in and it's like it wasn't the right place. But people have reduced the suffering in their lives and the lives of their children, the lives of their employees. The impact of this place is monumental. And a part of it, a way that it keeps going is from your financial support. And there's all kinds of things that claw at our pocketbooks. What are they called? Wallets. And we stay pretty low key about fundraising. Something I learned from years ago. I learned from a fellow who went around to churches consulting. And the way that it's done in many churches is, and it's by design, they build an emotional energy during the ceremony. And when the emotional energy reaches its crescendo and you're getting the goosebumps and you're feeling good about each other, then comes the donation bowl. And then there's also the teaching that unless you give 10% of your income tithing, then you'll never progress spiritually. And that's how these giant churches on the periphery of the city get created. And not only that, I mean, they make lots of promises. But we do it a very different way, which is very low key. This is as overt as I ever get. And right there's the Dana bowl that I used in Burma when I was a monk there very briefly. I walked through the streets of Rangoon and people put food in it and then I ate it. That was my food for the day. Still done every day in Buddhist countries. Now it's quite possible that some people in this room hardly have a dime to spare. And if that's the case, then you don't need to give anything. Instead, give your presence. Come and volunteer. Participate in some way. But there are also others in this room who have all kinds of disposable income. You know, planning the next trip to Disney World, and there's so many things that we do with our families and our electronics and so on. And I'd like to propose you do as I do, and as many of us do, which is, how do I want to vote with my money? Okay. And so the invitation is go online and make yourself a monthly contributor. And a monthly contributor of $5 adds up. And it's also particularly significant for you because there's a gesture I always do. And what can I use? What have I got? Well, I'll use this glass. See this glass? Watch what happens in your heart when I do this. This water is mine. The well with this water is mine. All of a sudden, we have walls and wars, as opposed to this is the water of life. If you need it, come and get it. And you can have the glass too. Share it with somebody. And it's that shift from frightened mine to ours that changes the world. So that's my invitation. Not only be generous to PIMC, but be generous to yourself. Give yourself an hour a day to practice. Spend 5 minutes more listening to your child who wants to read to you or something. Find it. The Buddha said, if you understood the value of generosity, not a single meal would pass without sharing with others. Oh, I'm going to indulge myself here for a moment. We escaped from an Airbnb in Sayulita. It's a pretty place, but truck fumes, and Jennifer insisted we go to a nice hotel. And it was a great idea. We went to the Sheraton something or other in North Puerto Vallarta. And it's like a hotel that you could go into anywhere. I mean, there are 10,000 hotels just like that in the world. Clean, toilets that flush. And I went out on the deck and I looked around and there were 30 of these. And I thought, all those people that are serving us can't afford a meal here. And this is the land they live on. It's an astounding thing. Weird. I liked it though. It was really nice to feel safe. And but I had a point I wanted to make with that. It kind of blew my mind. Oh yeah. The breakfast room, right? It's giant. It's 4 times the size of this room. I've been in a few of them over the years. I took a pilgrimage to Thailand some years ago, and we stayed in a couple or 3 of those. And we were both quite sick and could hardly eat. The look of food was like, ugh. But we went into the big breakfast room, and there was a little sparrow trapped in there. No doubt, never going to get out. But this little sparrow was coming and picking up crumbs off the floor. And so I really got into feeding the sparrow. And it felt so good to share a little bit of this unnecessary food that I had on my plate with this little sparrow. And then I became really wild. And I went and I picked up 2 large pastries, and there were birds outside the window, and I fed those birds too. And that felt just great to share some of that incredible opulence. I guess one more thing is that I have crows. I have crows that are my friends now. Every morning they come around 8:30, and they are wildly loud. And if I go out into the front yard, and I have my special crow call, bah, bah, which they come from the tree. If I do that for less than a minute, they'll come flying in, and they get the finest mixed nuts. It's just great. And I feel like I have a relationship with them. I do. And then there's seeds for the little birds and so on. So all this is just about saying, really address your sense of fearful selfishness. Find ways to give. It'll become so much fun. And it's as important to your happiness as the insight meditation. So there, I will pause. Mr. Dalton, you're on. And don't go away because there's more to come. Jim, for you?
Okay. Given the sign, start moving. Okay. Move. Be mindful of movement. And when I'm teaching Tai Chi, I often ask people to line up their belly button with their toe or their instep. And notice that the travel time that it takes, well, and make it as slow as is comfortable. But see how it's the same belly button, but when it's lined up, everything's different between this leg and this leg. So we can become aware of the engagement of a strong leg, or the travel time to the other side. This magic belly button creates a whole new sense of life in this body. Being aware of life, floating, easy, calm. I should lift my chin. I'm so focused on what's happening inside that I forgot you and you. Now you can do the same thing, just taking your weight into the toes and then into the heels. Just a little bit of a lift. And it's a journey. It's a flow of impermanence. Can you be aware of that? Can I be aware of that? Sinking, lifting, aware of each change. Now, for those of you online, I'm kind of extending my arms going up, and then I'm changing the position of my wrists. So there's changes in the arms, and the shoulders, and the elbows, and the wrists. The breath may be slowing down to match the movement. Each moment is followed by an impermanent moment, and it's gone. We're off into this space. And that changes the space in the space of this room. Wherever you are, you're influencing your surroundings with the easy, calm movement overhead. Paint a rainbow. You get a picture in your mind, and the picture influences the feelings of the movement. Sinking, crossing the wrists, separating clouds. So it's easy, calm movement of this body. And there's a awareness that's steady. Lifting one hand, pushing with the other, turning so you can pull in and push at the same time. rolling the shoulders. Again, shifting. Now my belly button's turning and anchored over one leg. Lifting the heel, lifting the arm, feeling the movement through the space. Turning, gazing at the moon, imagining the moon out through a window, and that changes the feeling of the movement. Now, reach out with one arm, let the other arm orient to the floor, to the earth. And this is called cloud hands. It's the effortless drifting of a cloud across the sky and the effortless movement of the shadow beneath. But there's a journey. It has a beginning, ongoing, moving forward, reversing, starting again. And then sinking, gathering all this awareness into a symbolic circle, a sphere of awareness within the awareness of the space. And these are the kinds of things that will happen during the half-day retreat from 10 till 4 on the 6th. I hope you'll join me. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Okay. It is said that the Buddha said, I teach only one thing. Suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. It's also said that there's a handful of leaves simile, where he reached down into the forest floor and picked up a handful of leaves. And he called himself strangely, and not strangely, but awkwardly, the Tathagata. So he didn't use I. The Tathagata what the Tathagata teaches is to all the knowledge that there is, as these leaves are to the leaves in the forest. He was very one-pointed. Right? Suffering, the cause of suffering, the end of suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. And one can read in the Pali Canon, people would come to him with all the usual questions, all the same philosophical questions that we have. And then he would listen really deeply, and then he would say, and are you suffering? How are you suffering? What's the problem? Right? I've been a psychotherapist for almost 40 years, and that first statement, what do you say? And what I landed on mostly was, so what brings you through my door at this time? And some people really know, and sometimes people they can't figure out why they're there. And that's true with us about our lives too. Sometimes we really know, and other times we don't know very well. Though we know that we might be drinking a lot, or freaked out a lot, or depressed, or anxious, or doing all the things that we do, desperately trying to have social connections so that we feel okay. But when it comes down to it, there's a certain, oh, good, nice French word, ennui, a certain, just things are not quite okay. Which is usually when people walk through the door of PIMC. I'm having an interesting inner experience with this, because starting yesterday, when it became clear what I wanted to talk about today, which is the same old thing. I only talk about one thing, really, actually. But I thought, well, you better get it together so it's really well organized. And there are people that give talks that are very organized. I've known people to give talks that they read them. And actually, there's a good story about that from Ajahn Chah, great Thai force master of our time. Ajahn Sumedho, now one of the elder of the Western Thai force tradition for Westerners, among Westerners. He'd been there a few years. His Thai was getting pretty good, and Ajahn Chah told him to give a talk. And so he planned it. And then he gave this incredibly articulate talk. And then Ajahn Chah said, give another. And then give another, until he was just stammering. And then he said afterwards, Ajahn Chah said, don't ever let me see you do what you did with that first talk again. Because if we come in with something that's completely prepared, I'm not with you. I'm in my presentation. But there are some things I want to say, and among them are this. Everything is impermanent. I've been saying that since I first heard it in my early 20s. And that there's a great deal of suffering in life. I've been saying that too. But I really haven't believed it. Like with the suffering, I always thought, well, I'll get it together. You know, someday I'll get married and I'll have a house and I'll have a career and it'll all come together. Have you noticed how it never all comes together? Or if it does, it's for a few heartbeats. And then in my case, she says, I'm divorcing you. I put in a hardwood floor that was half the size of this room. It's beautiful. All the joints are perfect. And I actually said to people, I'm going to live here either until I die or until I go to the nursing home. Perfect place out near Lewis and Clark College. And then she said, it's over. Wasn't on my pull down menu. Actually, divorce, bless her heart, because I didn't have divorce on my pull down menu and I would have stayed in that horrible relationship till I died, like my parents did. But everything's impermanent. And there's a classic story attributed to Achan Cha. A young monk came to him and said, how can you be so happy? Because this monk was starting to realize everything falls apart. I had a little list here. Sabe Sankara Anicca. You ready? This is pretty stiff medicine. Everyone you know and love will be separated from you. Through the ending of a relationship or through death, everyone you know, your most beloveds, your children, that's a hard one. How many of you have how many of you have both parents alive still? How many have one dead? How many have both gone? It's real, isn't it? They really die. Your health, you're going to get really sick. Might not be for a long time, but it could be on your next trip to Mexico. And on the trip to Mexico, we knew this is a minor ailment and we're going to get well. It's so easy to get sick. I won't ask you to put up your hand, but there's people in this room who are sick and you know you're not going to get well. Of course. Your home. You probably live in a pretty nice place. You take good care of it. You've got plants, you've got pictures, you've got maybe a wall of pictures of the children growing up and all that. It's all going to go away. Just to be a little current, all those people who went to that opera house sort of place in Moscow the other day, they intended to go home that night. All those people on the kibbutzim in Israel didn't intend for October 7th to happen. And this absolutely catastrophic thing that's happening in Gaza right now, right? There's people digging their family out of the rubble right now. That'll never happen here. It happened in Sarajevo. And we have a psychotic madman running for president. This is heavy, isn't it? Why talk like this? We all probably in this room, we have some dreams. We're really looking for this. I can't wait till this happens. You know, when I finish school, when I get this and I get that. And many of our dreams are not going to come true. I have a particular, and please forgive me this, I have a particular in 1971, I just started meditating. And I applied from India to do a master's in environmental studies in York University in Toronto. Why? I'd spent 5 years traveling mostly in the Far East and South. And what I saw was a catastrophic environmental thing happening. That was 1971. I have a prediction. In my lifetime and your lifetime here in this city, we're going to have water refugees because the Colorado River is drying up. And the 25 million people who are dependent on the Colorado River are coming north. Should we build a wall? Well, their skin isn't dark, which makes it harder. I grew up in Canada. They had the worst fires ever last year. They didn't go out. They're burning underground right now. Anicca. So Ajahn Chah, this young monk, came to Ajahn Chah and said, how can you be happy? How can you be so jovial in dealing with us? And he said, he reached over and said, you see this cup? The cup. For me, this cup is already broken. And then he reached over and took a drink out of it. He said, right now I have my cup. And I can take great delight in it. Right now I have my wife, husband, health, house, car. Right now I have my Dharma center. How much delight can I take in it? How much? How much dare I love my granddaughter? Because I'm not blind. Even if it isn't these massive catastrophic things that are coming. The Buddha made this list. He said this list, suffering comes in the form of birth, sickness, old age, decay, and death. None of those are avoidable. It also comes in the form of having experiences I don't want, right, all day long. Not having experiences I do want, wanting. Being with people I don't want to be with. You having that experience in your life at all? And not being with the beloved, the person you really want to be with. It's all the time. Is this ringing true? Is this that we live in a I could personalize it. I have lived my whole life in a fantasy. Really. This bad mood, or he's had some years of depression. This bad mood or this circumstance, this one's going to get better, and then I'm going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. But it never really happens, does it? There's some other ways that I have, and you probably can share in this. I've indulged in all kinds of distractions, all kinds of indulgences. Years of regular drinking. Years of regular marijuana, even just a little bit, you know. Not that it's bad, but why do I do that? Why have I done that? Why have you done that? It's because the present moment isn't bearable. Because of there's something I want that I'm not getting, there's something I'm getting that I don't want. I'm having to hang out with someone. I'm married to someone that I don't like. Or I am employed by someone I don't like, but I need to be here. Or I have this disability. Or I have this chronic pain. Okay. I hope this isn't a red herring, but it's something that I want to say about this. The human mind, unobserved and uncontrolled and unloved and unexamined, has some very bad propensities. Greed, hatred, and ignorance, which at the center of the Buddhist model, there's greed, hatred, and ignorance, and they run the whole thing. They run this, they run the birth, they run the whole cycle of birth and death. And we live in animal bodies. This neocortex is just that, it's really new. And the world of the animals is not a very pleasant, it's not a very kind world. There isn't a lot of love. So love's a creation that comes along with us. And I keep doing this. You know why? I've got jowls. Gravity has pulled down the corners of my face. I'm 76. It's pulled down here, and this side has gone below the waterline. And so it drools. That's a minor impact of old age, but it is to be singing a song, get really into the song, and then you start to drool. What do? Do you stop the song to drool, to wipe, or do you look like an old man drooling? We're capable of thinking anything. Do you know that? Have you seen that about yourself? How you've had some belief, got caught up in something and believed something, and then something happened and you discovered, holy shit, I don't believe that to be true. That's not true. Or you've been watching the mind wandering, and it'll have completely contradictory things in its own wanderings. This is very dangerous because we can form enemy images of other people. Jen and I, it was not all peace and love in our sickness in Mexico. We're pretty good communicators, but it got pretty hot a few times. Old stuff, you know. And we're capable of dehumanizing other people. We do it in groups. We create our state or our people, my people. I actually watched it. I was out for dinner last night with good friends, and one of them is really into basketball, and it's basketball time, right? And I was kind of interrogating her, asking her to make sense of to me why she would cheer for any one team. Right? Why would you pick a team? Like the Blazers here in Portland, they're not from here. Neither am I. Why devote to my team? Well, it's because we do that. We have this tribal problem, actually. And we can actually create stories, can and do, about other people. And then we can justify exterminating them. I highly recommend Zone of Interest, the Jonathan Glazer film. It's about the Holocaust. You never see inside inside Auschwitz. It's about the guy who ran Auschwitz and his family and how they lived, quote, normal lives, while just across the wall this was happening. And so I say this because it's not just a small problem that we have with the fact that we don't own what our own minds do. We have a massive problem as a species because we act out on those things. But where can we have our effect? Right here. Right here and right in our families. Why not just make good use of our advantage and live the most comfortable life we can? Why not take lots of vacations? And why not, if we have that possibility? Well, it's because it isn't very happy doing that. We're not very happy doing that because what we're missing is love. And that was the experience I had coming out of the sick place in our Airbnb. Walking down the street and walking in here this morning, it's really the same. You are all so beautiful. And you on Zoom too. Hi. And part of why we can be so beautiful to each other is that you're just like me. Whether you've got a different religion or skin color or something. We're all each other. We're all just like each other. And to have all those walls up is so painful. So I want to share this, which is as direct as I can from the Buddha. Maybe do it a little differently than I usually do. Oh dear. I've got a pick in here. I also have 10 dental floss things because my teeth are such that I have to carry dental floss all the time. It's aging. Oh, damn. It's going to be embarrassing how many there are. Every time I pass the bathroom, I pick up another one just in case. Wait, I don't really need to pick, I suppose. Hang on. Ah, there it is. So that's going to be in tune enough. You ready? It's the same thing I just said, but in a more genteel fashion. And I've been very direct this morning about the truth of impermanence. And I have a hope, I guess. I'm trying to share with you part of what happened for me in Mexico, which is, it's one thing to have these ideas as ideas. It's another thing to have them in your heart. It's another thing to get them in your body. Because ideas are just ideas and they switch, they change all the time. But I invite you to take these ideas and take them in. Let me see, could I do it this way? Let me see. There's not enough guitar? What? No, I've got it plugged in. Hang on, I can turn it up a bit. Is not enough? Well, let's go with it. Oh wait, I can do this. Ah, the technology of it. How about this, Paul? All right, so. It's not a cheery thing. Take it into your heart. I am of the nature to age. I'm getting older. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. Is this true? Are you inexorably aging? Not so long ago, I read a thing about a guy who died, a famous guy. I don't remember who it was. But it didn't bother me much because he was 81. Nah. And then I thought, shit. In this hall, just a few days ago, my wife and daughter created the most wonderful surprise 70th birthday party. I'm 76. That was yesterday. I am of the nature to age. I've not gone beyond aging. Is this true? I am of the nature to sicken, to fall ill, to drool. What the hell? Is this true? Well, I'm pretty sure it's true right now because it's in my very recent past. The cable. How sick was I? Minor illness, norovirus. Actually, I wrote a letter about this to one of my classes. We were so tired. We decided we need to change the sheets. The woman had come with new sheets. We need to change the sheets. Let's do it. And one of us said, I can't right now. Let's rest for a while. An hour and a half or more later, I said, we need to change the sheets. And I said, I'm going to count down from 10, and when we get to 1, we're going to get up and tear off this old, disgusting sheet and put on a new one. I got to 1, and I moved, and then she moved, and we actually got the bottom sheet on almost. Getting that top corner on the fitted sheet just couldn't happen. And then we collapsed back in bed, and it was 3 hours before either of us moved. This was a minor illness, right? I am of the nature to sicken. I have a dear friend who lives up in Washington, meditation student. A few years ago, her daughter had leukemia. She had a bone marrow transplant. Succeeded. She, the mom, was there when they injected into the IV the final dose that would kill every last living white blood cell in the body. 2 days later, she was there when they injected the stem cells. And her daughter came back to life. She's still alive. But you probably know, please raise your hand if you know anybody right now who's really sick. Wow, that's amazing that there's not more. Amazing. I know a bunch. I'm of the nature to sicken. I've not gone beyond sickness. Is this true? You know it's coming. I'm of the nature to die. Is this true? I don't really live my life as though I knew that I'm going to die. It's getting better, but not really. I still hold on to some grudges and really stupid stuff. Right? I am of the nature to die. Maybe this afternoon, maybe next week, maybe 100 years from now. Nope, that's not true. And then it gets really heavy. All that is mine, everything that I know and love, is going to change and get separated from me. I was sitting in our living room last night. Jen and I bought a beautiful art piece from the Huichol Indians in Jalisco. There were yarn paintings, and this is a real art piece. This is a real shaman. And we unpacked it and put it on the wall in the place that we thought it would go. And I was wondering, how long will it be there on the wall? I'm quite a lot older than Jen. I'm likely to be the first one to go. It's all temporary. We have beautiful plants. We have a nice house, small. But all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become separated from me. And I found myself going, all this partially directed by the illness, but I found myself going through the house looking at it last night as though it was over. Right? I've been, that house where I put in all the hardwood floor, I really thought I was there for good. And this present house is just, we're always camping. We're just camping with each other. In my traveling times, I met people and spent a week or two with them and then separated. And so whether it's some years ago I worked in a hospice program in Oregon City. And a lot of the people that I was meeting had been married for 50 or 60 years. And, I found a secret way. I was a social worker. I had to do a psychosocial assessment, and I would ask them, I'd tell them, I've been married for X years, and you've been married 60. Would you tell me your secret? And they'd tell the secret. And they'd all had really hard lives. Boy, oh boy, they had hard lives. So I'm of the nature to age, I'm of the nature to sicken, I'm of the nature to die. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. And then, this is an interesting piece. I am the owner of my karma. I'm the owner of my intentional actions. What does that mean? The Buddha taught, and we can experiment in our own lives, my actions have results. My actions of body, speech, and mind actually make things happen in the world. Not magically like in that horrible little book, The Secret, but because actually causality really exists in one level. So I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, abide supported by my karma. Whatever karma I shall do, of this I shall be the heir. My actions are really important. How shall I act? How shall I act today? There's another short version of this, in a way, different but helpful, which goes like this. My death is certain. The time of my death is uncertain. The way of my death is uncertain. How shall I live my life? So, by way of getting beneath the mind, why meditate? It's really good for stress management. It's really good for psychological and emotional improvement in our lives. It's really good to learn how to modulate our emotions because we can be more functional human beings. And what the real essence of what the Buddha taught was there's suffering, there's a cause, and there's an end. And so when you're suffering, if you're willing to train the mind, concentration, coming home to the breath, staying here, mindfulness, noticing what the mind is doing, coming back, compassion, learning how to be soft and open with ourselves, loving, being able to be present with other people and ourselves. Marimba. Is this just an empty promise? It's really not. I've been in this privileged position over the years to see hundreds of people come and say, the shit really hit the fan in my life, and the practice was what saved me. I knew what to do after the car accident. I knew what to do when all of a sudden I was alone, or I knew what to do when I was in so much pain I could hardly function. I didn't revert to the alcohol, or I didn't revert to the shopping. I actually went and I sat on my meditation spot and I got calm and I realized, whoa, I'm in this with so many other people. And then I reached out to my friends and I gathered them together and they gave me support, and I told them I was there for them. And I reassured them that I loved them because there's nothing else of any importance. Really. That maybe. Oh, let me do one more thing. It's one thing to say that everything's impermanent and that the cup is already broken. It's another thing to do one's meditation such that you actually you have periods where the mind is really quiet. And where you start noticing a thought beginning to form and then disappearing. Or where you notice a moment of anxiety and then you realize, oh, this is mind and there's nothing substantial to it. This is why it's called insight meditation, because we develop insight into the nature of the mind. And then that carries over into the crise du jour that happens, the crisis of the moment, and we realize it's okay, I can breathe. This really isn't that big a deal, even though it is. Maybe you're waiting in the ICU for someone to come out of surgery. So this is ultimately practical. This is the most practical thing you can do, which is weird because what are we doing? Well, we stop and we sit quietly alone or in a group, or we develop a practice at home to actually do it regularly. And we're transforming our character. Even beyond that, we're transforming the very way we are in the world. So there. Thank you, Ruth Dennison. Any comment? Oh, I'm going to take one comment anyway, otherwise I'll feel lonely up here. Anybody have anything you'd like to say or ask? I wish we had the afternoon to do some more practice. And the next one of my retreats that there's room on is at Brightonbush in June. You can register for that, 5 days. And there's a 10-day retreat in Nanaimo, British Columbia in July. Now that's a way to take your practice deeper, really to give up all the distractions and to actually just practice for a few days. Please, would you come and get the mic? Oh, can you take her the mic? Yeah, it's bad behavior.
This is my first time here.
You came for a wild one.
Yeah. I would like to thank you, first of all. I really needed some perspective, but my question is, how can you find any sort of comfort in the impermanence?
Can you hold your mic a little closer?
Oh, yeah. How can you find any sort of comfort in the impermanence? I find that a very uncomfortable concept.
How about this? It is all impermanent. And it's damn uncomfortable. And it's all impermanent whether we acknowledge it or not. And we can play house and pretend that it's not true, but then you notice that tightness in the throat, that anxiety, that what if something bad happens? Well, something bad is going to happen. And then the more it's like we grow up and we become more adept at acknowledging this is reality. And then we become more loving and compassionate. And then the impermanence, the beauty that comes with impermanence becomes more obvious. Why do we have flowers? They're brief. And so it's a matter of turning toward it and acknowledging it and becoming more loving. That makes sense? There's a truth in it. There's an utter truth, which is at the root of all of our anxiety, which is nothing stable and we're all going to die. And a lot of our dreams are not going to work out. And we can deny that and be anxious, or we can turn toward it and feel what we feel, that's why we do it in groups. We feel what we feel, and then over time we realize, oh, this trip that we're on from birth to death is really strange. And it's so precious. And we can get less and less anxious about everything to the degree we know that we can't control anything. Little things, briefly. Any help? All right. We'll take one more question at the back, Paul. Can you come forward partway?
Hi, my name's Emma. Hello, everyone. Good to see you. Thank you so much. I really needed this.
A little closer, if you will.
Okay. First off, thank you. I really needed this. And I actually have a request, or just A statement for the group. I've been experiencing a lot of fear and attachment these past few days because I can't pay my rent this month and I'm pretty attached to one outcome. And this really helped calm that attachment and fear. But that being said, I am looking for a job. If anyone has any opportunities, I would love to hear them. Feel free to come and chat with me afterwards. Thank you.
Hmm. Thanks, Emma. How brave and wonderful to do that. Well, I have some attachment and reticence to have opened up this kind of thing to such a depth and then end. But you can continue the conversation stepping a little wide of the shards into the living room. And there are some very fine, lovely people there that you can meet. Those of you at home, call a friend. Sit for a while. Love yourself. So let's end with a little chant. As Ram Dass used to put it, let's chant the dial tone of the universe. Om. Now we'll do it for a little bit, and then we'll end with me ringing this gong. Om. Om vibrates all the way from the heart to the throat to the. No, let's do a Sufi chant. Start with the heart. Who vibrate your heart. Who, and then it moves to the throat. Ah, and then move it to the top and go Om, and see if you can get the crown of your head to vibrate. And you can touch it, or you can just do it Hu Ah Om, and we'll do it all together at first, and then we'll move into a free Hu Ah Om, which is you breathe when you feel like it. Okay. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. And may we delight in becoming ever more joyful, compassionate, and loving. Because why not?